Today, we're talking about beer, but not just taste. We're talking about the insane physics happening inside your glass. A massive 7-year study just revealed the foam on a Belgian triple is actually a structural marvel that might hold the key to a safer electric vehicles and greener cleaning products. Researchers at ETH Zurich have spent nearly a decade cracking the code on why some beer foam lasts forever while others go flat instantly. They discovered that the Belgian beer utilizes a specific physical phenomenon, and let's see if I can get this right, the Marangoni effect, to create a self-repairing foam shield. This is headline news because this exact same science is now being used to stop dangerous mechanical failures in electrical cars and create eco-friendly soap. What's going on here, John?
Yeah, this is cool. So this was 7 years in the making. And so they cracked the code on beer foam stability. And so, like you said, they discovered that different types of beer use completely different physical mechanisms to keep their foam from collapsing. And Belgian triple beers, they maintain foam through surface tension differences, which you talked about, the Marangoni effect, which, they call it the Marangoni stresses. So while lagers, they rely on protein-rich films that create elastic bubbles. So that's the difference here, right? So the research started, this is cool, when a Belgian brewer gave a simple answer to how do you control brewing? And he said by washing the foam. And so this breakthrough has applications far beyond beer, like you said. Now, the key finding here is that there's no one-size-fits-all for stable beer foam. The physics operating in the Belgian triple is fundamentally different from what's happening in a lager, and brewers need to understand which mechanism is at work to optimize their product. So when we're talking about this, we're talking lager beers where the foam stability is controlled by surface viscoelasticity. Then we got Belgian single beers where the protein-rich cells behave like densely arranged small spherical particles on the bubble surface, and that creates a two-dimensional suspension. Then you have Belgian double beers, where the proteins form a net-like membrane structure around bubbles, and that creates an even greater stability than the single beers. So, and what emerged from this is LTP1 emerged as a pivotal protein in beer foam stability, and that's because of its role is complex and context dependent. So during the brewing process, it undergoes critical transformations: glycation, denaturation, and lipid binding. So there's a bunch of, this is really cool, there's a bunch of chemical reactions at play and a lot of chemistry at play here, far beyond just getting that 2 or 3 finger head on your beer, right?
Absolutely, and keeping it there.
Exactly.
Think of beer foam like a building. Lagers build a stiff, rigid wall, which eventually cracks, while Belgian beers build a liquid skin that constantly moves and repairs itself. And that self-repairing motion is the breakthrough. So this creates a blueprint for stable bubbles. In beer, that means aroma and flavor protection. But in the real world, it means we can finally control foam in places where we want it. Cappuccinos, and stop it in places where it destroys machines like car engines. So, some impacts we might see on our daily life, and we'll get to some other industries, is, expect richer, longer lasting foam in your lattes as dairy companies adopt these protein structures. Or, we talked about safer cars. Lubricants in electric vehicles won't foam up and cause engine failure using these structures. New cleaning sprays can use these natural beer mechanisms instead of harsh chemicals to create suds. So they say the timeline, the science is out now. Companies like Shell are already testing the EV applications, while brewers can start tweaking recipes immediately. Where do you think we're going to see it first outside the beer industry?
So I honestly think because the EV industry is so, they're trying to be innovative. I think lubricants in electric vehicles. So lubricants in electric vehicles, they can foam up, which create serious safety risks. So they're now working, the team apparently is now working with Shell to apply these beer foam insights to selectively break down the harmful foams in EVs, which is cool. I think there's a bunch of things. There's the food science applications to collaborate on milk foam stability, like you said, for coffee drinks, Craig, and sustainable surfactants. So most industrial surfactants rely on fluorine or silicon, and they're not environmentally friendly. So this could create an eco-friendly alternative. So there's a few applications beyond beer, which there's not that many yet, but I'm sure there's going to be more that we can talk about in the future.
Absolutely. And this is complex physics. It's not a magic pill. Just adding more protein doesn't work. You know, they have to master, like with brewers, fermentation conditions to trigger the specific Marangoni currents. What do you call them? Marangoni?
Marangoni, yeah.
Okay. And there's a risk of over engineering and things like coffee and beer, because then everything becomes the same, right? If every beer has the same foam, then it's not unique and whatever. But I love how the technology of the foam in beer is now being used in EVs. And if you own a EV, keep an eye on maintenance updates regarding lubricant stability. This is the tech that solves the issue, and we want to be looking at that. Anything else on this, John, before we move on?
So the cool thing, I just want to talk about the LTP1 just quickly, because so what's fascinating about LTP1 is that it starts in barley with zero foam stabilizing properties, but it's the brewing that transforms it through some chemical modifications. So during malting, sugar molecules attach to it through Maillard reactions, which is the same chemistry that makes bread crusts brown. During wort boiling, heat unfolds the protein structure, exposing regions that love to sit at air-water surface interfaces. And the final protein is chemically and structurally different from where it started. The difference about this, too, is the altitude connection. So there's a geographic element to this. So brewers at sea level, the boil wort at about 102 degrees Celsius, while brewers at 1,800 meters altitude boil at around 96 degrees because of lower atmospheric pressure. And that 6-degree difference dramatically affects LTP1. So high altitude brewers can end up with 10 to 15 times more LTP1 in their final beer, which might explain why certain brewing regions develop particular beer styles. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, it's a great note, like where all this come from, right?
Yeah.
And they had unknowingly perfected this technique, right? That causes the Marangoni effect. They were just trying to get the foam.
Which maybe explains why some beers can't be replicated elsewhere unless they're at the same environmental atmosphere as others, right?
And does that mean at different environmental altitude, it would change over time? But we'll have to watch.
Yeah,
because that has to do with gravity and air pressure and all those types of things.
How's that going to affect the research that they're doing now, right? Because LTP1 is the main protagonist here, right? So
yeah, I'm sure they're researching it. We have some doubts about this and that, but they have to be handling it. The people testing this and trying to put it in EVs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So this proves that beer foam isn't just an aesthetic, it's a sophisticated material that is literally changing how we engineer cars and chemicals. So the next time you order a pint, ask yourself, are you drinking a beverage or are you having a physics experiment? Let me know which beer you think has the best head in the comments below. What do you got going on, John? This is stuff that's going out in the next week or so.
Yeah, so we've got some events at the Toronto Business Development Center. I'm doing some lunch and learns in person there. It's a great organization, great incubator. And then February, what date is the Startup Drinks, Craig?
I closed that, so I'm not sure. February 19th, I believe.
February 19th. But have a look at startupdrinks.com. startupdrinks.to.com for that event and other events. If you need some help with government funding, SHRED, or any other grants, reach out to me on LinkedIn. But if you're interested in AI automation workflows or you need help with your business, what can they do, Craig?
Well, we've got lots of stuff going on over at flowgrammer.ca where we help businesses implement AI and business automation so they can scale faster and more reliable, get more leads, grow faster. We also have a growing community over at flowgrammers.ca where we do Flowgrammer Cafe, we do live build events, we do demo events, we get the community together online and in person several times a month to show and demo and support anybody who's trying to do this, learn automation, end-to-end AI agent building. So check all that out. We have a series of events called Flowgrammer Cafe. The next one's February 6th, March 6th, and April 2nd. We do those right now in partnership with Workhouse, and those are full day drop-in headphones, laptop, and work. And we'll have some experts on site that can help you troubleshoot. And we all kind of do a little walkthrough in the afternoon about what you're working on and, show us what you're working on and stuff. And it's really cool. So check all that out over at flowgrammer.ca and flowgrammers.ca, and coming soon. And you can sign up for this now, flowgramming.space. An AI agent and workflow marketplace where people can buy and sell agents or workflows. So if you're building agents and don't know what to do with them, where to sell them, go over there and check that out. Again, flowgramming.space. Or if you're building workflows, or if you want agents or workflows built, you can go over there and buy them. We have some interesting guarantees, and it's coming soon, so you can get your name on the waiting list right now. That's all we got going on, John. For everything else, go to torontostarts.com. I don't even think I mentioned it that whole time. Thanks everyone for watching. All the information about CES, and these interesting things. Any last words, John?
No. Check out our next episode. We're going to be talking about the weird stuff at CES. So,
all right, everyone. Thanks for watching.